Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tarika Foundation Parenting Series. I'm your host, Poonam here, and today we are talking about something deeply important, yet often difficult to talk about mental health in families. As parents, we focus so much on our children's physical health, education, and future. But sometimes emotional well being takes a backseat until something feels off. This episode is part of Mental Health Awareness Month, and our intention is simple to bring awareness, to reduce stigma, and to encourage seeking support when it is needed. Because asking for help is not a weakness, it's an act of care and responsibility. I'm really glad you are here. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Deepali Sensi, a licensed therapist with extensive experience working with parents, children, and families. Welcome, Deepali. We are so grateful to have you with us. Before we begin, my request is to introduce yourself. Tell us how your day looks like, what kind of work you are doing for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Poonam, and it's a pleasure to be here. As Ms. Poonam said, my name is Dipali, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, working with a broader population, families, children, parents, and a lot of people in crisis. I have a master's degree that is specially focused on clinical counseling and another one that is focused on marriage and family therapy. So a lot of my work has been working with families and in different cultures in different ways with different diagnoses. I am currently working at a nonprofit called Buckley Programs in North Bay, and I'm seeing some clients. I'm a clinician there, but I'm also an assistant program director for their 988 suicide prevention and counseling program. So I do see and hear a lot about mental health and crisis and role of families and children in my everyday.
Thank you, Dipali. To begin with, I wanted to ask you mental health is a term we hear often, but not everyone fully understands it. So, how would you explain mental health in a simple, everyday ways for our parents?
Great question. Yes, mental health is not something that is understood in the right context in a lot of times. To keep it very simple and easy for parents and families or for anyone new to mental health, it would be it's how we think, feel, and handle everyday life. It is like for our physical health, we take care of our body, we focus on exercise and health, we diet and all of that. It's same for mental health is how we cope with our day-to-day life. It can include some stressors, it can include our regular day-to-day job. It is more about how we take care of ourselves in more than one way.
Wow, thank you so much. Really simple way you explained so how we think and feel. So, why do you think mental health is still difficult for many families to talk about openly? You gave beautiful example. Yes, we do take care of our body, but are we taking care of our mind, the way we think, the way we feel? So, my question is, why still it is difficult for families to talk about openly?
I think historically, mental health has been a very restricted field in a lot of cultures, including our South Asian culture. I think there is a lot of misconception and misunderstandings that exist historically, and some of them continue to exist now. I think the biggest thing that we want to be mindful is the stigma. There is a lot of stigma that comes with talking about mental health, seeking support for mental health, right? And thinking of it as something that is not normal, right? So there is that, right? And then there is many families and many parents or grandparents in our culture grew up with not having enough understanding about mental health, or not even having a chance to talk about it openly, right? So now they don't even know how to talk about it because they never got a chance to talk about it, right? So it's a generational thing that follows in a lot of cultures and families. I also think there is a fear of judgment that comes with talking about mental health, right? What would others think? What would parents think? What would my family think? What would my friends think about me if I reach out for help? So a lot of times, fear of judgment, fear of being blamed, that it's on me, like it's my fault that I am not feeling 100% okay, or I'm reaching out for support, are big reasons. I think a lot of people also don't have a complete understanding of how different parts of mental health support work, right? Maybe they don't have the language to talk about it with their parents or kids, right? Maybe they don't totally understand the difference between therapist or a psychiatrist, right? Because it's hard to know the specifics if you are starting brand new or if it is a new concept. So I think there are a lot of factors that play a role, but I think the biggest ones would be those.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Top three reasons you covered it: generational gap, lack of awareness, and fear of being judged. But I wanted to tell you, as parents, we are often the first one to notice when something feels different. So, what are some early signs that a child or teenager might be struggling emotionally, and how can parents distinguish between normal, like you use that word, normal phases, and something that needs attention? I think, as you're saying, the lack of awareness, right? Like things which kids think normal or parents think normal, they are not normal. So, your, I think, insights will be helpful to our audience.
Sure, I do think, yeah, it's important to understand what is quote unquote normal for your child's behavior versus what is going on and how you can support them. So some of the early signs I think can be divided into different categories, right? As parents or as siblings, they see the first changes in any of their behaviors, right? So if people notice any change in their emotions, if there is sadness that lasts more than their usual time, right? Some people are able to recover from sadness pretty quickly. Some kids or families take longer. But whatever that normal time duration is, if that feeling lasts longer than their usual time frame, I think if they are noticing any behavioral changes, like withdrawing from friends, withdrawing from social events, withdrawing from their hobbies, acting out more. A lot of time we hear that families talk about that their child is acting out, right? Like is anger, is being disruptive. But I think it's important to know that anger is a secondary emotion. There is something underlying that. So it's important to know that that the child might be exhibiting those behaviors, but there might be sadness or disappointment or something else that needs a little more deeper dive into understanding what's going on with the child. I think it is also important to notice how child talks about themselves or how families talk about themselves, right? If they hear talks about low self-worth or low self-esteem, then, or if I'm worthless, I am not good enough, you can tell that there is something going on, or a child or a family member is going through something that would need maybe additional support. The top things I would say that we notice pretty early on and that families report is sleep problems, like change in sleep patterns, change in routine. If they are in school, like they notice change in grades, change in social interactions, right? And appetite. A lot of families and children report either not eating or eating too much, and fluctuations throughout the day would be the top signs, I would say, that come up.
Thank you, Dipali, for educating our audience. So I fully understand parents are there at home, they can watch their kids, but sometimes I feel parents, they themselves are so busy. They don't even pay attention. So, what I'm hearing from you, definitely parents need to open and create safe space at home where kids can really share who they are and what their feelings are, maybe at the dinner table or whatever way. But parents need to feel more connected, then only they can observe these behaviors. If parents are busy at their work and kids are there in their room and there is hardly any communication, then parents will miss out all on the signs you mentioned. And I wanted to bring another point you mentioned. In many culture and communities, there is still hesitation around seeking therapy or professional help. My question to you is, how can we shift from having that stigma? What would you say to parents who feel like I should be able to handle this on my own and they don't seek professional help? Any insights on that?
Sure. I think you bring up a very good point of families feeling connected with the current lifestyle and the pressure everyone is working under. It is easier to miss some signs, right? And check-ins are definitely a good way, whether it's after school or at bedtime or at a dinner table. I think that can at least open up the conversation, right? And yeah, to answer your question about how to encourage people or how to normalize seeking help, I think we need to understand that as humans, we cannot fix everything. I think a lot of parents have this internal or external societal pressure to fix everything for their kids, right? And in that, they lose themselves in a lot of ways, right? But also understanding that there is support available where they don't have to be alone, right? Like there, it can be, it is a change in mindset. It really is, especially in our culture. I think if people are more open to understanding what therapy can do, I think that will help, because I think a lot of people assume and maybe look up stuff online or get their information through social media or other ways instead of an actual understanding of what therapy entails and how can professional support be really helpful, can be a starting point. I also think sometimes when people have had past negative experiences with a provider, they tend to restrict themselves. So I think I want to encourage people to try again, right? It is, if you don't like a doctor, you change a doctor. You don't stop going to a doctor, right? In the same way, it's important that if you don't like your therapist or if you hadn't had a good experience, then maybe give it another chance and reduce the pressure on yourself. I think there is another thing that I want to highlight here is a lot of families and parents have a culture of fixing the problem. And I'm going to challenge that a little and talk about it's okay to let your kids struggle a little bit instead of fixing their problems, right? And then, but also at the same time, know that this is the time to seek professional help. And it's not something that can just be cured or talked about within the family.
Dipali, you brought up many good points. Even in my experience, leave it to experts, right? I am a mother of two kids, and why to burn bridges? And you absolutely, you are right, fixing. I am not here to fix it. I rather accept them, love them unconditionally, and if they need help, professionals are there. And you brought up social media. I think our podcast won't be complete if I don't talk about the AI. The biggest use case of AI today, people are using it as a therapist. While they don't understand AI is a niche technology, guardrails are not there, and things can go wrong. I do have many negative cases, but I don't want to bring that up. But you're absolutely right about the, if one provider did not work, it's matchmaking, right? I do know people who are very grateful to their therapist and they highly recommend. So if one provider did not meet your expectation, it's okay to try out different providers. So thank you for bringing that. My another goal of this conversation is prevention. not just reacting when things get difficult. So, what are simple everyday practices family can adopt to support emotional well being, if you may share those things?
Sure. I think it starts with understanding and shifting a mindset of not fixing, but listening, right? A lot of times, as parents and family members or as adults, we get into taking care of our kids and fixing it mode. But if we take a step back and just listen, just let them talk, let them share what's going on, could be a good starting point, because then they will at least have a space and a place to talk about things, right? The other thing is normalizing emotions, right? Some emotions are tough to talk about. We all know that. But if we are fearful about talking, our kids and families would also be fearful, right? So we have to normalize that it's okay if you had a bad day, or it's okay if you're upset at a parent or at someone in school. Let's normalize different feelings instead of just focusing on the positive feelings, right? I also think role modeling is a great way, right? So if a parent or a family member is able to role model how healthy emotions can be expressed and how it's okay to express healthy emotions or any sort of emotions, it could be a good way for kids to learn that it's a judgment free zone. And if my mom can get upset and express and feel emotionally safe, I can too. Right. I think it's important for people to know that. Right. I think the other things are pretty standard in making sure that you have regular routines for kids, because kids and families and a lot of children, especially in their younger age, rely on consistency and routine, right? So if they know that their mom is going to check in with me at 9 p.m., like then they look forward to it, and that's their time to talk about whatever was going on, right? So predictability is helpful, and making sure that there is space for them to talk about all sorts of feelings, right? I think it is also important for people to know that the regular, like we underestimate how sometimes mindfulness can help, right? So if a parent and a kid can just sit together for 5 minutes in silence, that can also be healing for a lot of family members, right? And also if they need to talk, they talk, but just being present sometimes can be enough. And then the other ones are usually like making sure they are active, because we all know that with the current environment and social media and the access to technology, not a lot of kids tend to get the experience of going out and meeting new people in person. Obviously, COVID did not help with that, but just trying to see what there are different ways that you can normalize. I also think support groups within a community could be helpful, right? So if there are other parents of, like, you meet them in school or activities, they normalizing talking about emotions, normalizing talking about what their kids are struggling with instead of just talking about the grades and all the positive emotions that come with that experience.
Thank you, Dipali. You mentioned many great tips for prevention. If kids are young, co-regulation is a great idea. If your kids are grown up, right? So I will tell you what I do. My kids are grown up, but when they are emotionally charged and they want to talk to me, so first thing I do is active listening. As you were saying, listen to them to understand, not to react or respond. First, understand them. So sometimes even I tell them, let's take 3 deep breaths together, because yet they're so emotionally charged. And by the time they take 3 deep breaths with me, they're already calm, and then they can express themselves. And then even solutions also, they come up themselves. So I think as a parent, you are absolutely right. First, I need to model those emotions, have healthy emotion. When kids were young, I used to tell them, yeah, mom did not have a good day, or mom needs some time and space. So definitely, I think creating that safe space and not showing I am a perfect parent, I never get angry, right? As you were saying, it's okay to express your emotion in a healthy way instead of suppressing it. I think then parenting will be more enjoyable journey. I wanted to ask you another question. we are encouraging our parents to seek help, but what should parents expect from therapy? Many people feel uncertain or sometimes even intimidated if they haven't tried that path.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. A lot of people, we were talking earlier, right? They go on what they see online or people's views about what therapy is. So therapy is a safe, confidential space for kids and families to come and talk about what's going on. It's the simplest way I can explain it, right? Because sometimes it is easier to talk to a third person who is not in the house and not in the family, and that can help you come up with coping skills and ways to work around it. I practice therapy by understanding that I am not an expert in anyone's life. They are experts. I am just helping them find ways to cope up with challenges they experience. Right? So therapy will not fix everything. It's not supposed to cure and fix every issue. It is just supposed to help you find skills that you already have, just to help them recreate, and you can practice in a safe space that is outside your, right? So a lot of times we encourage, and therapy can work in different ways. A lot of times we encourage, like when I was actively practicing more with clients, I would have family sessions, and then some sessions would just be with parents and some sessions would just be with kids, because there is obviously some hesitancy if all the family is in one room. But the goal was to get a clear picture of everyone and how everyone works and the personalities, so that we can all come together to work towards a common, right? To help people understand that it is not to make people feel bad about their parenting or tell them what they are doing wrong. It is actually helping them rediscover the skills that they already have. But it's hard to utilize them when there is so much going on in their own lives, and also when they're trying to manage kids and families and parenting in general.
Thank you, Dipali. You said it beautifully. We all have those skills, but demands of life are so many we forget. And I feel like therapy is a reminder. You are wonderful, parent, the way you are. You just forgot some skills. I am here to practice those skills in a safe space. So nothing to be afraid of from visiting therapist or sharing your true feelings with someone who is providing that non-judgmental space. So thank you. In today's world, the academic pressure, social media, and global uncertainty, so both parents and children are caring more than ever. I wouldn't say it's just parents who are caring or just children, because we are seeing even in school, kids go through a lot. And to be honest, I did not go to school here. My both kids are born and raised here. And I struggled to connect with them. And they also shared, Mom, you don't know what we feel here, what we experience here. So, what message would you like to share with families navigating this kind of scenario?
It is a very real scenario. I think it is less talked about, but it is very much a part of an everyday struggle that I feel a lot of immigrant families or people who are from different cultures face here. I think it is important to know that, again, like I'll go back to understanding that you don't have to know everything. You can learn with your kids, right? It's okay if the parent did not go to school here or did not attend even college here. That's totally fine. You should be open to learning from the experiences of your children instead of thinking that our way is the right way, because I think a lot of that comes in between the intercultural modes of parenting, where children are confused because they're trying to build their own identity, right? They're trying to build their own identity in early years of their life, and they are trying to find a right balance between the American culture and our own culture. So it is a tough thing for them, right? So I think all we can do is being open and supportive, but also relieving the pressure from ourselves about knowing everything, right? It's okay to slow things down. And also setting some boundaries. If you are not okay with something, we have to be firm with the child and also giving them a reason for why we are not okay with that. Because when I was working with families, a lot of people would say that it's hard to stick to boundaries with children because they keep pushing. Their job is to push boundaries. They are kids, they will push boundaries all the time, right? But it's important to know when the time is to be open and supportive, and what are some of the things that need boundary setting as a part of your own parenting style as well.
Thank you, Dipali, for bringing that bicultural nuances and generational gap also. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be the balance of love and law, discipline. You cannot have authoritarian style of parenting all the time. What I'm learning from you, that creating that safe space and even relieving pressure from parents. You don't need to figure out everything. You don't need to be perfect. It's okay. Even parents, when I was parenting, once a parent is always a parent, kids are grown up. But I used to take so much pressure on myself for being a perfect parent, taking for every single class, whether kids were enjoying or not. My intentions were good to give them exposure as much as I could. But I learned somewhere you need to draw the line. My biggest learning, and I wanted to share with parents, is first take care of yourself even before you take care of your family or your work. Right? If your cup is not full, you cannot give to your family, you cannot give to 100% to your work. So first, take care of your own mental health, which could mean walking in the nature or taking mindfulness, that silence time we talked about, or investing in your own hobbies. So generally what happens, parents, they make their kids as their project. They are spending so much time, energy, forgetting about themselves, and then they later on repent. And they wish, they took their good care of themselves. But I'm sharing with parents, your mental health is equally important as your children. So first have good health for yourself, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever way, that holistic well-being, right? So very nice conversation, very meaningful conversation. Thank you so much for your insights and guidance. If there is one thing we hope listener take away, I feel this is like you're not alone. There are many parents who are experiencing this, and it's okay to talk about mental health, and support is always available. So, taking care of your mental well being and your family is one of the most important investment you can make. Thank you for joining us today on the Tarika Foundation Parenting Series. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might benefit. And thank you, Dipali, for joining us today, sharing your insights. It was a wonderful conversation. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. I did want to add one little thing before we end. I think it's important for our parents and families to also know that our kids are very resilient. A lot of times parents get into, because they're little and obviously we are parents, we want to make sure the kids are taken care of. But in my experience, I have noticed that children do appreciate honesty more than any other thing, right? So if people are honest about, hey, I'm really tired, I cannot take you somewhere today, I think that will be more well received emotionally than a lot of parents assume. So I think it's like you said, like taking care of your own self, role modeling it, and including services for yourself, right? It's not just for the children and for younger generation, it's also for people who have been doing this for a long time. Because if I'm honest with you, the statistics don't look very great about how people, like how our culture doesn't promote mental health as much as we want it to. Like only 1 in 5 like 1 in 5 South Asians experience mental health challenges, but only 23% of the whole population really goes to seek support. And that is a big treatment gap, right? And it is not only about understanding and like going talking to someone, it's also a message of taking care of yourself before taking care of others. Thank you, Ms. Nakul, for giving me this opportunity, and I hope people resonate with what we shared today.
Thank you once more, Dipali, for sharing these stats. I hope it is clear to our audience from the stats. It's a big problem, epidemic rather. We need to come up together with ideas prevention as well as cure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every month, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we thank you so much for listening.